Hello and welcome to the Posture Dojo podcast. I'm your host, Sam Miller, taking you on a journey through postural correction and healing, sharing the insights and the experiences, healing my own 85-degree kyphoscoliosis, and talking with experts from a range of different fields that bring their expertise from breath work to movement to the nervous system to exploring new ways to integrate our highest posture. And sometimes we delve into fields that might be surprising to you. And today I'm very excited to have Devi Daly on the podcast, a very experienced Yin Yoga teacher. Devi, introduce yourself. What do you do? What's your perspective on movement and the body and well-being?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, Sam. And what I do is I teach yoga, and my specialty is Yin Yoga. And I teach that entirely online. And Yin Yoga is all about slowing down. It is the complement to Yang exercise, and Yang is like our more active, when we're engaging muscles. In Yin Yoga, we are more working with relaxed muscles, and this is a way of working that targets the deep fascia and connective tissues of the body. It is very calming for the nervous system, and it's a practice that has really been transformational in my life. I started out with, when I was young, I was not in the best environment. I had a lot of social anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety in general and depression. And I learned to kind of stand in ways and to hold myself in ways that I grew up with a lot of stress patterns in my body. And Yin Yoga has been a wonderful way to unfold these stress patterns. So I teach online now. I love sharing what I have learned in my own journey with others to help heal anxiety, to help heal the body, to help with joints that ache. There's a lot of benefits that Yin Yoga has that I haven't really found any other yoga practice or any practice at all to encompass these qualities of healing physically, emotionally, mentally.
Walk me through that process of unfolding stressful patterns that we might be constricting and holding in our posture.
When it comes to the patterns that we can hold in our bodies, this is what really leads us to posture problems a lot of the time. And sometimes it's structural. It's something you were born with, like in your case with your kyphoscoliosis. And other times it's just a way that we have learned to hold ourselves, maybe as a protective thing. I know when I grew up, I was in a school with a lot of violence, and I learned to literally keep my head down, and my posture was like this, like with the rounded shoulders, and really protective of the heart. And a lot of people have that syndrome, some more than others, of the hunchback, I guess you could call it, or a kyphotic, a rounded middle back. And then along with that, we can get a lot of this tightness around our sacrum and our sacroiliac joint. And something that people think about with posture a lot is how it is in the upper body. Oh, I have to get my shoulders back. I have to open my chest. Which is good stuff to do, of course, if you have tightness and if you have forward head syndrome and if you have a rounded upper back. But what we don't think about as often is what has been going on physically and emotionally in the lower body, what's been going on in the hips, because this is our foundation as a human body, and posture is so much more about how we move. It's not about how we stand up. People tend to think, oh, can you stand up straight? You have good posture. It's a lot more about how we move. And I was recently listening to one of your TikToks where you said, rather than standing upright from you want to stand upright from your glutes rather than standing upright from your chest. You want to get your glutes under you. And I would say the same thing from a Yin Yoga perspective, that you want to get your sacrum under you. And your sacrum, that huge bone at the base of your spine, for a lot of people, it gets kind of stuck by lower back tension and also by a tight psoas. It can get stuck in a way that causes your pelvis to tilt forward. And this causes an excessive rounding of the lower back and excessive tightness in the front of the hips. So Yin Yoga does a lot to counter that. And this is really important for healing patterns throughout the body. I see a lot of people with upper body pain, myself included. I've been through syndromes before I found Yin Yoga of upper body trigger point pain in the shoulders and in the trapezius and in the neck and in the upper spine and excessively tight chest. And these syndromes are something you can make yourself feel better with a massage, with some stretching, with some yoga poses. If you that are focused on the upper body, you can stretch out your neck, you can roll your shoulders, stretch your shoulders, but they will keep coming back immediately or very soon, within hours, within maybe the next day, you'll have the same tightness. Unless you really address the root cause of it, which is in the lower body, in the sacrum, in getting the sacrum underneath of you, in being able to support the structure of your spine properly. Because if your sacrum is stuck, if your pelvis is stuck in an anterior tilt, then you will be compensating with your head position and with your shoulder position. The other thing that Yin Yoga considers is this part of our physical tissue called fascia and connective tissues. And when we learn anatomy, we often learn that we learn a lot of bones and muscles. We learn the names of bones, we learn the names of muscles. And we tend to really not learn much about this other stuff that is like everywhere that we don't have organs and bones and muscles. We have this stuff called fascia. And fascia, it literally gives your body its shape. It weaves through all of your muscles. It anchors muscles into bones. Connective tissue is the greater kind of tissue that this network of connective tissue and fascia, it moves throughout the body in a web. And it's not like muscles where we have a bicep muscle. It's in one place. It goes from one joint to another. Instead, we have these areas of fascia in the body. And fascia, as it turns out, responds to longer holds of stretches. So you would stretch a muscle in, maybe usually 5 to 30 seconds when you're stretching before you work out, or if you're doing yoga. You don't spend that much time stretching a muscle out. You might do it in some repeats and stuff, but when you want to stretch your fascia, and fascia is responsible for 50%, up to 50% of our flexibility. Muscles are only responsible for, half or so of our flexibility, but fascia is what is responsible for the deeper level of our flexibility and our mobility. And so if we want to stretch the fascia, we want to do these longer holds of postures. And in Yin Yoga, we do that for 3 to 5 minutes at a time. And it might sound difficult, but it's actually quite relaxing. We do poses that are really easy to hold. You're just mostly kind of laying there in one position or another that is designed to get your body into a lengthened position in one region of your fascia.
Beautiful. So thank you for walking through the Yin Yoga approach, which goes deeper than that musculoskeletal structure. It's helping retrain the fascia through these extended periods of being in different positions to do that. I know specifically Yin Yoga allowed me to finally kind of unlock a lot of what I was holding in my hips, giving my body and my hips the time to go into those places, to breathe relaxation into those places, to allow the fascia to understand that we're bringing new motion in here. That allowed me to really unlock and align my posture higher up. And so it is an incredibly beneficial practice to do this. I do want to mention that the kyphoscoliosis that I have is most likely related to a near drowning injury in which one of my legs was basically caught in a rope in a river, and so that kind of caused a lot of kind of strain on my groin and pelvis around 12 years old. And in that time, I think in that recovery process, I don't think I rehabilitated correctly. I just kind of sucked it up and just kind of went along with it. And I think this created a very protective, defensive kind of grip at a very deep level. And so I want to add to this a kind of more recent findings in this kind of scoliosis kind of field is that they've discovered that a lot of people with scoliosis have a shortened spinal cord. The spinal cord is an extension from our brain. It is the main information highway of our central nervous system, and our central nervous system being the communication channels that we have from our brain to our body to react, in our fight or flight or freeze kind of responses. So in this case, I believe I've had this chronic, freezing situation, which, as I understand deeper, and this is really recent in my own healing journey, going deeper into relaxing the nervous system, as well as addressing the fascia, which has been in positions for years that need to be unfolded and released. Understanding these concepts, understanding these layers in my own body has been profoundly beneficial for healing, because I think the more we can understand this, the more that we can send the appropriate signals through our body as we're doing these types of positions to allow that natural alignment and elongation that wants to happen when we're in these kind of positions. So what, when it, perhaps, you have something, in that what people who have imbalanced postures higher up often have a lot of locking up in the hips. So perhaps you'd like sharing, what do you, if someone has tighter hips, where do you begin to address that?
Which I saw in your podcast, which is very much resonates with the Yin Yoga approach, is that flexibility is what you want to approach first when trying to rewire the body and to work on any kind of postural correction. You don't want to start with strength, even though strength is important. Strength and flexibility are both important. And in our approach through the lens of Yin Yoga, we want to think about what the word yin means. It comes from Taoism, and yin is the one half of the yang, the yin and yang puzzle. And yin by nature is an incomplete practice, and yang is the other half of it. So by being someone who loves Yin Yoga, I am by no means saying that everyone should always be laying around and relaxing all the time. That is not good for our system. That's not good for our development. It's good for us to have some stress and to challenge ourselves, and it's good for our muscles to be worked and pumped, and it's good for our brain to be challenged with things that we have ambitions about. So but what is going on in our culturally is that we have so much of that doing and fast-pacedness and engaging when we're doing our physical exercise. There's a lot of emphasis on strength and speed, and we are missing more and more as the generations go on and life becomes more fast-paced. We are losing the ability to slow down and to go inward and to just be able to be and allow, like you were saying, an unfolding. And this unfolding process can be of the body or of the mind. There is a trusting that we have when we get into one of these long 3 to 5 minute holds of a yin yoga pose, that there is a meditation happening in those poses. There is a time when the mind is allowed to just review its day, or to think about whatever you might have been just stuffing during the day in order to get through your day. Like, what is it that wants and needs to rise to the surface for you to process? And so we trust that the brain has this natural healing mechanism to make us whole again. And all we have to do is kind of be quiet and still to allow the brain to do its magic. And at the same time, we can certainly do that in meditation, sitting in meditation, but at the same time, if we can also be very gently stretching out our tissues in our body, and this is kind of like a double whammy of relaxation and healing, you might say. It's a time when we can really it's the time for the nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest response to kick in. So this is also just called the relaxation response. And when we do yin yoga, we are giving lots and lots of space for the parasympathetic nervous system to activate. This is where healing happens. This is how we do our repair of all of our day-to-day activities. And yeah, it's necessary. It's the other half of the puzzle. So we need to do yin yoga in complement to all of our yang activity that we do in life.
For sure. And it's something that I love doing, as I'm, going into a rest phase, whether it's, a quiet evening or going to sleep. Perhaps, you'd like to share some practical kind of poses that people, let me rephrase that. Perhaps you'd like to share a couple practical poses that you would recommend for someone who would like to experience this effect that you go deeper into in a full yin yoga session. Is there a couple poses that someone, especially maybe who wants to, elongate their posture, elongate and align their posture? Are there a couple poses that you would recommend that would allow them to experience yin yoga?
I will show you some of my go-to poses, some of the best ones to start with in yin yoga, especially for healing and correcting postural issues. So one is something you've seen before, a lunge, and we call this dragon pose. And what's different about the yin yoga dragon pose is that we don't want to engage the legs. We're not keeping this back leg up, and instead this knee is down, and I'm working on letting this whole pelvic and thigh area relax. And my target area that I'm stretching is the hip flexors, and especially the deep psoas muscle, and getting into the quads as well. And we think less about muscles and more about the area of fascia that is continuous through the psoas and the other hip flexors. They're all encased in the same network of fascia as the quads. And so we can feel when we come into this pose, this whole area stretching. And it's not just individual muscles. And so we would hold this for 3 to 5 minutes. And the process is like in the first minute of the pose, you would feel maybe just a little like you're kind of finding your stretch, you're maybe getting your angles right, finding out what feels good. And then for the second minute and third minute and beyond, you are beginning to settle into stillness and letting the mind go on its journey. And you let the mind tell you what that journey is rather than trying to make the mind be still. Another pose that's good and even more relaxing is this one that we call caterpillar pose. And it's simply a 2-legged forward bend. We come forward over the legs. And we're stretching the fascia of the whole back body, the backs of the legs, the backs of the thighs, the back of the spine. And one thing you'll maybe notice about the way I'm doing this is that I'm allowing my spine to round. And this is very important in Yin Yoga. We want to allow the spine to round. And in a lot of other kinds of physical disciplines, we'd be told to do this pose like this. We'd be told to keep the spine straight. And in Yin Yoga, we do exactly the opposite because we want to stretch the fascia of the back body. And the spine has 7 layers of fascia that weave through the vertebrae and that wind and bind the spine together. And if we engage the spine by straightening it, we are not able to stretch into all of that fascia. So those are 2 poses, and then one more pose that, if you can do it, is wonderful, but not everyone can do it, is called saddle pose. And this is like the mother of all poses for getting into the psoas, where you put a cushion behind you. This is a yoga bolster, but you could easily use a cushion from your sofa. And what I'm doing is sitting on top of my feet, but some people do this sitting in between the feet, and either way works, whatever feels better for you. And then you just go ahead and move on back. And what is going on here is this stretch from the knees all the way up the whole front body. And this is the way that we tend to, this is the complete antidote to all of not all, but a lot of the ways that we can tend to tense ourselves up when we are having social anxiety or stress or anything. And we also have this great opportunity to open the chest. So we can also counter our forward head syndrome and our hunched shoulder syndrome. And if this is difficult for you, you can lean back on a piece of furniture instead, just like the end of your sofa or the end of your bed. And then you don't have such an intense stretch going on. And so again, to speak to your question about the process of Yin Yoga, is that when you're choosing these variations, there is not one variation that's right for everybody, because everyone lives in a different skeleton, and we don't all have the same flexibilities, and that's normal, that's okay. So when we are finding a yin pose, we have to find our own variation, and that's why when I just showed you the saddle pose, I showed you different ways to do it, because you want to find the pose that gives you a sensation at your edge. And finding your edge is one of the important things about Yin Yoga that we do in that first minute, where we're just sort of fishing around, figuring out what feels right. The edge is, some people say, and this is a good guideline, that about 70% of your maximum stretch is what you want to go for. Or what I like to say is whatever stretch you can just still breathe into. So finding your edge in a Yin Yoga pose is whatever amount of sensation you can still relax and breathe with. If you are going so deep into a pose that you can't relax and breathe anymore, then that means you've gone too deep, because you have to think about the fact that you're going to be in that pose for 3 to 5 minutes, and you want it to feel like a meditation. So it's hard, because we tend to want to overdo, we tend to want to achieve, we tend to want to do the most difficult and intense pose possible. And in Yin Yoga, we are sort of constantly coming up against that and realizing, oh no, I don't really want to do the most difficult thing possible. I'm not trying to achieve here, I'm trying to rest. And not even trying, but I'm allowing rest and stillness and ease. That is a big part of the Yin Yoga process.
I liked the poses that you shared, because I think they really counter a lot of the stagnancy and that sedentary type of lifestyle that we have, that is sitting a lot of the time. We're really not activating that midsection as much as our bodies were designed to do. So I think those positions really go in there to as you say, unfold and allow that flow and that, I guess, reestablishing healthier connections with the mind and the body in those areas.
Yeah, the saddle pose especially and the dragon pose are really good good antidotes to lots of sitting, because they do the opposite. They bring the leg, instead of flexion of the hip, they put you into extension of the hip, which is integrally connected to back bending and to getting your sacrum underneath you. And that is the ultimate thing we want to do with these poses, is get the sacrum underneath us. And one of the reasons that we work with the lower body more in yin yoga than we do with the upper body is because of the way that we want to target fascia and connective tissues. The lower body is a lot thicker. It carries much more of the load of our weight, and so therefore it is just way more heavily laden with connective tissues and fascia. And so we have a lot more of it to work through, a lot more of fascia tension to work through in the lower body.
So when you hit that, or when you, I wouldn't say hit, when you find that edge, that 70% of that, that maximum, you're sinking into it, what does that feel like? Walk us through that experience when you're in the right place, that benefit of these positions.
Yeah, so what it feels like when you get into like the optimum yin zone, where you're at about 70% of your maximum stretch, is this profound sense of release starts to come over you. And this happens during the pose. This is a time when the mind is being magnetized to the body. So it is not a matter of trying to make the mind focus on the pose. It's not a matter of trying to think about where you're stretching or direct the mind. Instead, the mind is naturally being gravitated toward what's going on, and there is this sense of presence that is happening during the pose. And especially when you finally do release the pose after these 3 to 5 minutes, there is this feeling of energy flowing, of qi. It is said that the qi is being released and is able to kind of do its healing magic in the body once the pose is released. And this is a profound time for meditation. And so the structure of a yin yoga class is often holding your pose for the 3 to 5 minutes and then relaxing in what we call the rebound for 1 minute. And that is like the most glorious time. And then we do the next pose, and then we do another rebound for 1 minute. And then we do that for as long as we have, our 30-minute class, our 60-minute class, or whatever. And then at the very end, we have a longer shavasana rest, which is like the ultimate rebound. And there is so much energetic potency in the body that it's just the most easeful time for meditation. The mind kind of naturally comes into this place of rest. There are euphoric feelings happening in the body, and it's just the best to me. And I'm kind of addicted to it. Who needs drugs when you have yin yoga? That's what I like to say.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's a beautiful feeling to feel that in your body. It feels right, and it feels glorious. And you can certainly have these ethereal type experiences. So it's I'm seeing and understanding how yin is amazing for releasing these constricted holding patterns that we may not even know. It allows us, it gives us the time to go into these deeper layers. And I found there's always a new layer that you can let go of. You think you're consciously letting go of something, but then you realize you have a whole nother layer of constriction and tension deeper down. And I think it's those extended periods of time that allow us to bring our awareness to those levels to let go. So we're able to release these patterns, and then you're saying you have the rebound phase where you're allowing that to integrate. Do you have a favorite young activity that you like to help and help reinforce and integrate new patterns, new healthier holding patterns in the body?
So what I like to do with yin yoga and for reintegrating healthy patterns is, or integrating, I mean, first we want to make sure that we give ample time in yin yoga for the resting periods and for the meditation afterward. And the meditation can be done lying down, or it can be done in a seated position, or it can be both. We often do that at the end of yin. We do our lying down shavasana rest, and then we come up into a seated meditation, which is, like I said, the most easeful meditation you'll ever do, because there's something about the yin practice that prepares the mind and the body for this time. To more directly answer your question, is another big part of my yoga journey has been the discovery of instinctive meditation, which is a meditation style that doesn't try to direct the mind or quiet the mind, and it integrates beautifully with yin yoga, because we instead in instinctive meditation, we work with this trust of the mind and of the brain that it knows how to heal itself. And anyone who's been through trauma, most of us have been through some trauma, whether it's a minor one or a major one, there is a lot that we can do with therapies and to heal ourselves, but there is also just the time spent alone, the tears after a loss of a loved one, or after any difficult loss in life. There is the time right after when it hurts so bad you can hardly even face it. And then time goes by and it feels a little better each day, and years go by and you wonder how it hurts so bad because you feel okay about it, you've accepted it. And this has a lot to do with our innate healing ability. This is the mind doing its magic. We are wired to heal ourselves, and we are wired to thrive. And so when we come into meditation, it doesn't have to be a miserable place. It doesn't have to be a war zone where we're trying to stuff thoughts and chastise ourselves for having a busy mind. Instead, we can allow the free flow of thoughts and feelings and emotions and just let them rise to the surface. Let them bubble up, let them effervesce, and consider them, like Rumi said, you're like a guest house. This is when I'm allowing every emotion is another guest at the door. Every physical sensation, every painful memory, every annoyance. This is something for me to welcome into my home and to greet it and to entertain it.
Yeah, beautiful. So, yeah, I mean, I guess by the yang to the yin, I was more referring to how once you have this new body that you're integrating through yin yoga and the meditation. So you're suggesting through this instinctive meditation is a way to integrate it further and more deeply, right?
Yes.
I like that. Just walking activities where we're really starting to get into that functional strength, through sports, through different movements.
In everyday life, there is really just a feeling in the body after we do yin yoga of ease, that you're able to be more mobile, to get your spine under you, to get your sacrum under you, and to have less tension in the spine. And so your mobility is naturally greatly increased when you have a regular yin yoga practice. And so there's not any particular thing that I do to increase that. It just happens as a natural part of yin yoga, and you will notice it in all of your activities, whether you work out or do like your primal movement that I know you like to do. And there's also this process of really getting to know your own body in a more intimate way, getting to know your own mind in a more intimate way, because you have spent this time getting to be in contact with yourself more.
Well, thank you for sharing your perspective on this. I highly recommend people people who are correcting their postures, who are truly looking to stand differently, to go deeper into the process of aligning and fortifying a healthy spine before you build strength, before you even approach these more corrective breathing and aligning type of movements. The first step is bringing that awareness into that body, unraveling, releasing, unfolding all of those subconscious, but also sometimes conscious patterns that we have in there. And in my experience, the yin yoga is a great way to do that, to start going deeper into your body, to understanding where you're holding these different types of tensions and patterns. So I highly recommend it. Devi, please walk us through what are your offerings in terms of helping people on this journey into yin yoga, and where can they find you?
Well, thank you. Yes, I am a yoga teacher. I specialize in yin yoga, and I teach online. And you can find me on YouTube. I have a channel called Devi Daly Yoga, and the spelling of my name is also my website. And on my website, you can find my membership program called the Yin Studio. And at the Yin Studio, I share more classes, deeper programs. My community of yogis is all there, and they follow my weekly calendar of classes, along with I have a special program for beginners. I have a program for more experienced students to move through a journey of several weeks. I have a live class there once a month. And but if you just want to kind of feel it out first, you can go to my YouTube channel. And my website is spelled DeviDaly.com. So everybody misspells it, but it's DeviDaly.com.
Perfect. And we'll have those links in the show notes as well. You'll find that in the description. Make sure to leave a review on this episode if you found it helpful. Thank you very much for coming on, Devi.
Thank you so much, Sam, for having me. It's great to talk to you. Great to be here.
Talk to you also.